probably the ones that are the initial individuals that took the martial arts from China to Okinawa, then to Japan, and then it spread from Japan to Korea, and then Indonesia, and so on like that. So, you know, basically, like in many cases, like the Vikings, it's a lot of, because these people were sailors, you know, because they...
but it has an Asian origin, for the most part. I mean, it's practiced more in Asia than perhaps in any other part of the world.
Sure, I think that most people, you know, can relate back to the old TV series Kung Fu with David Carradine, and which the basis of the series is a true story. And this is where Bodhidharma an Indian prince, came across the Himalayan mountains, and he was trying to lecture in Buddhism to the Shaolin Temple, which was at that time was really not a martial arts temple, was more of a religious temple. And just the physical condition and the health and the attention span was so short. As he would be lecturing, these monks would be nodding out and falling to sleep. So he taught a series of exercises, initially just for health exercise and to, you know, really tighten up their concentration and this type of thing. From that point, when they were doing a lot of trading, they had a lot of problems with highway thieves and bandits and so on like that. So the development of course, there are a great many animals that are very skillful fighters. So that's basically what the study of Kung Fu was from the martial aspect, was a man with his limitations of a human body trying to imitate the 5 basic animals, which would be the dragon, the tiger, the crane, the snake, and the leopard. Each of these having an internal characteristic indifferent to each other. For instance, the dragon being a mythical animal, this had to do with the spirit and just one's will to survive and his intrinsic energy in the body. The crane being a very frail, feminine animal, had to learn how to use methods that kept an individual from being in a power-for-power confrontation through learning maneuvers. Tiger being the strength and bone development, leopard being the strength and the agility as far as this form of Kung Fu is pretty much where modern-day gymnastics and acrobatics came from. And then the snake, of course, being the emphasis on the energy and breathing.
Very good. Master AAkins, you've indicated that you're planning on opening several schools.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you teach your students, and what are some of the things that you tell them in terms of the discipline dealing with the martial arts? I mean, how do you go out and perhaps sell what you're doing to your students and people who would like to become a part of what you're doing?
I use the belts in martial arts. We told you we use a 6th degree black belt, 8th degree black belt. The kids have belts from white belt all the way up to black belt. I use those belts as goals, and they learn a certain amount of criteria, and they get their next belt. I show them through, you know, goal-oriented behavior, practicing, dedication every night. They'll accomplish their goal. It's a winning. You know, they get a sense of a win. They learn the winning attitude.
And of course, Sifu Mitchell, since you are an instructor, I would imagine that you've been involved in terms of all of the various areas of the disciplines that he's talked about, which is to say you understand about the crane and the tiger and et cetera. What are some of the things that you feel that you can tell our young people this morning about the martial arts and what it will do for them as individuals?
Well, for one thing, the American people nowadays are considered lazy Americans by the Chinese because they don't work out, they don't do any type of exercise to upkeep the body. A lot of people sit in front of the television and just watch television like 8 hours a day. And when you do martial arts or any form of discipline dealing with the martial arts, you stay active. Your mind is always working, and your mind and body becomes one. And what martial arts try to do is try to build up the soul and the spirit of a person and try to build up the internal energies.
Very good.
A lot of Americans don't know about the internal energies of their body. They don't know the levitations of the energy. And you might say that we just use external energy for everything. And if you know anything about martial arts, you'll know that Chinese people, the older they get, you know, sometimes the strength and everything that builds up inside them, they're younger. The internal body is younger than most old Americans at age 63 or something similar to that. Their bodies are calibrated to the 28-year-olds.
Now, Master Gray, you've been involved in a number of events and a number of championships, and I think that you've had at least 9,000 students to work under you. Now, exactly what does that mean? I mean, that's an extraordinary figure in itself, but over a period of 28 years, what does that mean when you talk about your students? Let's talk about that.
Well, we've, you know, I guess I would have to relate back to initially to the early 70s, the beginning of my competitive career for the last 20 years. And from that point, I was working in conjunction with actor and former world champion Bill Superfoot Wallace, who was teaching at Memphis State at the time. And there was another, the super heavyweight world champion in PKA, Anthony Amp Elmore, was also in Memphis. And initially what we started from the kickboxing and the contact fighting is we had a nightclub here called the Ringside Seat in the late 70s and early 80s. And we started hosting fights there, and they had likewise had a similar club there in Memphis. And so we would take the stables of fighters from the Nashville, Murfreesboro, Middle Tennessee area to Memphis and back and forth. And, you know, oddly enough, at this time we have, probably close to a dozen nationally and world-rated fighters that basically got their start, you know, here in Nashville with this program with Mr. Elmore, Mr. Wallace, and myself.
Let's, Mitchell, let's look at some of the degrees. I think Master Akins indicated earlier that there were several degrees from the white belt on up, and let's perhaps get from you that kind of information about where does a person start and how would a person start and become involved, and where could a person go before he or she would reach the level that you're at now, and certainly before they would reach the level of Masters Gray or Akins.
Well, when they first come into the studio or the school, Master Gray takes them through like an introduction course just to see if they learned anything or do they have any type of skills that are related to martial arts or any type of fighting art. And if they have some type of development or skill, you know, he'll take them through and give them tests and probably promote them to a white belt. But when they first come in, they're no belt. And once they go through the test and show that they have achieved certain skills, then they move up the level.
Now, what are some of the skills that a person must achieve in